Well, good evening to you there, ladies and gentlemen. This is Scott Manning coming to you live college football podcast pregame show. We got a lot to talk about here in the next half hour, 45 minutes. Please stay with me tonight. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to have a whole mess load of fun. We got a lot of things I want to talk about here. We're just going to go ahead and just jump right into the show, and let's enjoy the show. Let's get ready to go. Number 10, Ohio State faces Maryland on Saturday. Ohio State, I don't have the point spread for that yet. I do apologize for that. But a lot of people have said for the Ohio State game, this is just a warm-up for the Michigan game next Saturday. But, however, there are some people that are saying, don't overlook Maryland. We got the Terrapins this week. Don't take them lightly. Dwayne Haskins has already thrown for 3,000 yards this season, and there's been a lot of talk about him. Everything is just gelling right at the right time for Ohio State ever since getting their doors blown off by Purdue. And after beating up Michigan State 26-6 last Saturday, the Ohio State Buckeyes are looking very well. And the Buckeyes have averaged over 40 points per game in their victories over Maryland ever since Maryland joined the Big Ten. But I'm going to be honest with you. A lot of people are still saying that this is just a preview for the Michigan game. But there's a lot of people that have said, we're going to take this game seriously. We got to take every game seriously. Dwayne Haskins said, I'm not worried about Michigan yet. Let's worry about Maryland first, and we'll see what happens from there. Paris Campbell, Mike Weber, J.K. Dobbins are all thinking the same thing. Ohio State coach Urban Meyer said, don't take Maryland lightly because we got to go to their house and play. I grant you whatever happens with Maryland and what they've been through, it's been a nightmare for them all season long. But also, too, for Maryland, another nightmare. Quarterback Taysom Hill is out for the season with an ACL injury. Not good. And Maryland has been struggling. They're only 5-5 on the season. But the repercussions of the DJ Durkin mess, where Durkin lost Jordan McNair, the repercussions are still ripping through the program. Jordan McNair got fired. Two of his trainers got fired. An assistant coach has been fired. Maryland President Wallace Lowe is leaving the school at the end of when his contract is up in 2019. So the repercussions are still rippling through the program. But I'm going to be honest with you. Maryland will be back. But this year it's just been a struggle. It's been a disappointment for the Terrapins so far. But if you ask me, DJ Durkin should at least be behind bars. He should be in jail for causing McNair's death. He may not have been responsible directly, but this is going to haunt Durkin for the rest of his life. That's all there is to it. And Wallace Lowe tried to bring Durkin back. There was such a backlash from the student body. The governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan, politicians got involved. The state of Maryland got involved. It's a bit of the University of Maryland, the football program is just a total disaster. And that's the only best way to put it. Ever since Jordan McNair's death, it's been one doggone thing after another for them. But as far as Ohio State goes, they've just been clicking on all cylinders ever since getting their doors blown off by Purdue. I know it sounds bad that I'm putting it like this, but there's no other way you can put it. They're both all intertwined. But you know, with Ohio State facing Maryland, Ohio State's 4-0 against them ever since Maryland joined the Big Ten, averaging 40 points per game. That's huge. And a lot of people at Ohio State have said, this is just a warm-up. This is just a warm-up to when we get ready to face Michigan. And that's all there is to it. Bottom line. All right. Now we get into the nitty-gritty matchups this week. We got 3 very big games on the slate for Saturday. I'm going to start it right out of the gate at 2:30 on NBC from Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, ladies and gentlemen. Number 3 Notre Dame faces number 12 Syracuse. If somebody would have told me that the Syracuse Orange would be staring the top 10 in college football right in the face, I wouldn't have believed it. But Syracuse is 8-2 on the season, while Notre Dame is undefeated at 10-0. Notre Dame coach Brian Kelly said Syracuse is they're a tough football team. I mean, they got a quarterback who's Eric Dungy. He's thrown for over 2,100 yards this season. It's going to be very tough to beat. But we got the defense that can stop the run. Tavon Coney, he's back. He's tough. He's leading the defensive squad. But Syracuse coach Dino Babers said about Notre Dame, he said, I've been very impressed with what they've done. With Ian Book being their leading passer this season, he's really done a lot. And they got a great running back in Dexter Williams, and they got Miles Boykin too. There's a lot to think about there too. But there is some great news like I said, there's great news for Notre Dame. Ian Book is back. After missing last Saturday's game against Florida State with a rib injury, Book is back and ready to go. Some people actually said they decided to go ahead and start. They went ahead and decided to start someone. They started Brandon Wimbush because they wanted to save Ian Book for Syracuse. There's been some talk. There's been some speculation about that. I'm not going to deny it. Brian Kelly's even said no. However, who thinks Ian? Now I'm going to ask a question. Do you think Ian Book being benched for Syracuse was because of a undisclosed rib injury, or do you think it's because they wanted him healthy when they played Syracuse at Yankee Stadium? Think about it for a minute. But I'll say this, though, for Notre Dame. Notre Dame's got one of the best defenses in all of college football. Tavon Coney, he's one of the best defensive guys in college football right now. He can stop the Syracuse offense. But they're going to literally have their hands full, and here's why. Eric Dungey, their quarterback, almost 2,200 yards passing this season. He has 14 touchdown passes to show for it. Mo Neal, 716 yards, 5 touchdowns on the ground. And Jamal Curtis has 748 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns through the air this season. So the Notre Dame defense is going to have their hands full. But what about Syracuse? The Syracuse defense has got to step up because they got to face Ian Book. 1,824 yards this season and 15 touchdowns. Dexter Williams, he's 30 yards away from having an 800-yard rushing season. He has 10 touchdowns on the season. Miles Boykin, 654 yards, 8 touchdowns through the air. This is going to be a matchup of who can take it first. Who answers the bell first is going to win this ball game. Now, Notre Dame is a 10-point favorite, I grant you. And the over-under is 66. But Syracuse, I think Syracuse will give Notre Dame a battle. I really do. So look for this game to be decided by which offense can start throwing touchdowns or start running it up the score first. I'm going to be honest with you. Notre Dame, Syracuse, it may not look like close on paper, but when you look at everything, Eric Dungey, almost 2,200 yards passing. Notre Dame is going to have their hands full. The defense, Tavon Coney is going to have his hands full. And that's all there is to it. And the bottom line is, Notre Dame has got to win out to have any shot at the college football playoff. If they lose to Syracuse or if they lose to USC next week, the debate's really going to begin on who they would put in. Would they put in a one-loss Michigan team or a one-loss Notre Dame team? And I'm going to tell you right now, you better be ready to think, you better believe that Notre Dame's got that on their mind. If they lose one, they could be out. And Oklahoma or Georgia could jump in and take it away. There's a lot to think about going down the stretch. We got 2 weeks to go. We got tomorrow, then we got the following Saturday, which is Rivalry Saturday. And I'm going to be honest with you. Notre Dame, if they can beat Syracuse, they should have an easier time with USC in the Coliseum on the 24th. And there's a lot to think about when we only got a few weeks to go. And the bottom line is, anything can happen, and it usually does. Okay, let's talk about another big game on Saturday. Number 15, Texas. Number 16, Iowa State. This is a huge game. And right now, ESPN is kicking themselves big time. Because this game is going to be on the Longhorn Network. Originally, everybody had this down as Texas is just going to be a warm-up when they can go right into the Big 12 title game. Well, I got news for you. It's not going to be a warm-up. Because this is a big game tomorrow. Texas, Iowa State. There's a possible shot at the Big 12 championship. I'm going to get to that here in a little bit because I'm going to try to clear up the Big 12 mess as best I know how. But Texas coach Tom Herman said, Iowa State's a tough football team. Every time we got to go to, with the game in Ames, you never know what's going to happen. As tough as Iowa State's been all season long, it's been a very unbelievable season for them. I mean, they got somebody who has 1,315 yards passing, and they got a guy who has 816 yards receiving this season. Iowa State coach Matt Campbell said, it's been remarkable what our team has done. It's been remarkable. We weren't even predicted to be anywhere near the top of to have any shot at the Big 12 title. But also, too, keep in mind, there's a lot to think about here, too, for Iowa State. But let's think about this for a minute. For Texas, Sam Ehlinger, almost 2,500 yards passing this season, and he has 20 touchdowns already. Keontae Ingram, he has 568 yards, 3 touchdowns this season as well. Little Jordan Humphrey, Sam Ehlinger's favorite go-to guy, 947. He's only 53 yards shy of having 1,000 yards receiving for the season. He's already got 7 touchdowns for himself already. For Iowa State, we got Brock Prudy, 1,315 yards passing. Not very good, but considering what Iowa State has done has been remarkable. David Montgomery, 765 yards, 6 touchdowns. Hakeem Butler, 816 yards and 8 touchdowns receiving this season. But keep in mind, and this is a biggie, for Iowa State, David Montgomery is suspended for the first half due to the brawl that they had against Baylor. So that's something to think about too. What can Iowa State do? They're not going to have David Montgomery for the first half. What kind of a ball game are we going to see again between Texas and Iowa State? There's been a lot of speculation there, and as it stands right now, Texas is only a 3-point favorite as it stands right now. But I'm going to be totally honest with you. Whoever wins, this game is going to come down to who can perform in the clutch. Will it be Sam Ehlinger and Little Jordan Humphrey, or will it be Brock Prudy and Hakeem Butler? That's going to be the big question. That's the big $64,000 question at the moment. And right now, Sam Ehlinger and Little Jordan Humphrey have been kind of a little bit off here in the last couple of weeks. Losing to West Virginia, losing to Oklahoma State. And all of a sudden now, we got a 4-team race for the Big 12 title. So there's a lot to think about there going forward. And I'm going to say this now. It's going to be very interesting to see how this game shapes out tomorrow night. And there's been a lot of questions, that need to be answered. And I don't have the answers for them at the moment. We'll have to see how this game forms out and how this game goes. And I'm going to say this now, and this is a plea to ESPN. Put it on one of the ESPN networks. I don't care if it's your college channel. I don't care if it's ESPN News. But put this game on the tube for regular viewers to see it. Because believe it or not, the Longhorn Network is not a lot of people in Texas don't even have the Longhorn Network. And that's hard to believe. But it is what it is. But ESPN, put this game on regular TV because this is a big game. This is an important matchup. And I realized that ESPN kind of realized they were thinking, Texas, Iowa State, this is just going to be a blowout. And Iowa State's not going to be any good. Well, believe it or not, Iowa State is right in the middle of a Big 12 race. And there's a lot to think about going forward. And this is just going to get more interesting as the weekend goes on. And we'll have to wait and see what happens. Bottom line. All right. Okay. Let's talk about number 11 Central Florida, number 24 Cincinnati. The American Athletic Conference Championship is 2 weeks away. But there's a lot of things at stake. Central Florida's 22-game winning streak is on the line. ESPN College Game Day is going to be at the Central Florida game, including their toughest critic of ESPN, Mr. Kirk Herbstreit. And it's been remarkable what Central Florida has done. They're playing better than they were last year. UCF and all their victories, they've been averaging 30 plus points per game. Cincinnati's defense has held their opponents to less than 30 points a game themselves. So something has to give. UCF coach Josh Heupel said, Cincinnati's a very tough football team. We got a long way to go, and everybody realizes what's going to have to happen. This is a big game for all of us. And with a lot on the line, anything can happen. We got a 22-game win streak. Last year, we crowned ourselves national champions because we were the only team that were undefeated. I think we won Alabama. We won Alabama. That's all there is to it. But as for Cincinnati coach Luke Fickell, he said, if we could stop UCF tomorrow night, that would be remarkable. If we can pull off this will be the upset of the year. If we can upset Central Florida, that would be something to think about. And we'd be celebrating to this time next year. Well, let's think about this for a minute. The quarterback matchup for UCF, Mackenzie Milton, 2,309 yards passing and 21 touchdowns this season. For the Cincinnati Bearcats, Desmond Ridder, almost 1,900 yards passing this season and 15 touchdowns. And the running back battle is going to be the UCF running backs are not. I mean, the quarterback battle goes to UCF. But Cincinnati's offset that. Here's how. Michael Warren's the second. 1,082 yards rushing this season and 17 touchdowns. Greg McCray, he's only has 673 yards rushing and 4 touchdowns this season for himself for UCF. Now, UCF barely wins the wide receiver battle with Gabriel Davis. 571 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns. Kahil Lewis, 490 yards and 6 touchdowns for Cincinnati. Folks, this game's going to be decided by who wants it the most. And the bottom line is, it's going to be a very interesting game, and it's going to be crazy to see what happens going down the road. But let me tell you something. This is a game not for the faint of heart. If you want to have a shot at the American Athletic Conference Championship, if you want a low-scoring battle, don't bother watching, because I got a strange feeling. Because let's think about it. UCF has averaged over 30 points per game in all their victories this season, and Cincinnati's defense has held them to all their opponents to less than 30 points. Something has to give, and it usually does. But let me tell you something. It's going to be a crazy night tomorrow night. And that's all there is to it. And with Kirk Herbstreit and the game day crew coming down there, and you know that everybody has their critics. But Kirk Herbstreit is the toughest critic for Central Florida. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to come down to who wants it the most. And the bottom line is, with everything on the line, the American Athletic Conference Championship game is 2 weeks away. But let me tell you something. It's going to get crazy. And that's all there is to it. You have to kind of excuse me, my voice is going away a little bit. You have to kind of bear with me. Now that's all the game talk I have. Now, let's turn over to the latest New Year's Six bowl projections. There's been a few changes. There's been a couple of changes that I want to make you aware of. There's a New Year's Six bowls as it stands right now. According to the latest projections, the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl will now have number 12 Syracuse against number 9 West Virginia. That would be a noon game on December 29th. Syracuse, West Virginia. That would be an interesting matchup. But let's think about this. Gary Jennings Jr. for West Virginia. You got David Sills, Will Greer. That would be a fun matchup. And let's think about this for a second. Eric Dungy, Mo Neal, Jamal Curtis. There'd be some high-flying antics in that ball game. That's all there is to it. And the college football playoff games have not changed. No changes there whatsoever. Now, as it stands right now, the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl would be number 11 UCF versus number 7 LSU. You know about Nick Brissett, Justin Jackson, Joe Burrow of LSU. That would be a fun matchup. But let's think about this for a minute. That would be fun. But let's think about it. McKenzie Milton, Greg McCray, and Gabriel Davis. That would be an interesting matchup. That would be one worth watching on New Year's Day in the Fiesta Bowl. The Rose Bowl, no changes whatsoever. It would still be number 8 Washington State, number 10 Ohio State. But Ohio State is playing much better now. And Washington State, they're just clicking on all cylinders. And ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a very interesting game to see what happens on New Year's Day. And the All-State Sugar Bowl would be number 6 Oklahoma, number 5 Georgia. Let's think about this a minute. For Georgia, Jake Fromm, Elijah Holyfield, DeAndre Swift. That would be very interesting to see what happens. And of course, you know Oklahoma has Kyler Murray and Hollywood Marquise Brown. I would love to see that matchup. That would be a fun matchup on New Year's Day. And that's all there is to it. Now, not much has changed in the latest New Year's Six projections, but there could be some major changes going forward and going down the road. Now, we need to talk about this. We have a 4-team race for the Big 12 crown. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes. But let's think about it. The Big 12 battle. We have 4 teams, and there's only 2 spots in the Big 12 championship game. So it's time to clear up the confusion. I'm gonna clear up the confusion the best I know how. I'm gonna do my best, but the bottom line is it's gonna get crazy over the next 2 weeks in the Big 12. It all starts tomorrow, and you guys know about Texas plays Iowa State. Now keep in mind, Iowa State owns a tiebreaker over West Virginia in head-to-head. Because earlier in the season, if you recall, Iowa State humiliated West Virginia in Ames. So they own a tiebreaker. So Iowa State owns a tiebreaker over West Virginia. Now Texas, this is where this is going to get interesting. Texas has a tiebreaker over Oklahoma. But West Virginia owns a tiebreaker over Texas. That's something to think about going forward. Now what needs to happen is Oklahoma win out. You win out, you're going to be in the Big 12 championship game. West Virginia, same thing. You win out, you're in. But I'm going to tell you something. You might want to think about the Texas Longhorns. Texas could come and jump in and take it away. Now I grant you, West Virginia owns a victory over Texas. However, if Iowa State beats Texas tomorrow night and West Virginia loses in one of the next two games, then all of a sudden, we need to be thinking about the Iowa State Cyclones playing for the Big 12 championship. So there's a lot of questions there to be answered. Oklahoma, they lost to Texas in the Red River Shootout. They got to play West Virginia on next Friday. So I've got that game that game is on my mind too. But I'm going to be honest with you. It's going to be very interesting to see how this game goes. Oklahoma, West Virginia next week. But tomorrow night, Iowa State, Texas. If Texas beats Iowa State, you can take Iowa State out of the running for the Big 12 crown. But if Iowa State knocks off Texas, then it's going to get interesting because West Virginia plays Oklahoma State. But I'm going to say this to the West Virginia guys right now. Don't take Oklahoma State lightly. Don't let that 5-5 record that Oklahoma State has fool you. I've seen what Tyler Cornelius can do, and I know how Mike Gundy can coach. Okay? I'm telling you now. West Virginia, you got to win tomorrow. You got to win tomorrow, definitely. And if you can knock off Oklahoma, that would be huge. Because West Virginia, and I know West Virginia is aware of this, Iowa State owns a tiebreaker. So it all boils down to the next 2 weeks. Now, Texas plays Iowa State tomorrow. That's a big one. If Texas wins, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. If Iowa State knocks off Texas, look out. Because West Virginia is going to have to win out to be in the Big 12 championship game. Basically, for Oklahoma, you win, you're in. They got the easiest road to get there. But the hardest road is got to go. We got three. Basically, it's literally almost three teams fighting for one spot in the Big 12 championship game. That's all it boils down to. The next 2 weeks are going to be very interesting to see who gets into the Big 12 championship game. And that could be that's a biggie. And there's a lot to think about going down the road. And you know, Oklahoma, they're in a much different situation. Yes, they're playing for a Big 12 championship, but they're fighting for a college football playoff spot too. They need, if Notre Dame loses or Michigan loses anywhere, they can get into the college football playoff, into the top four. So Oklahoma's got more to play for. Literally, Iowa State has nothing to lose. Literally, Iowa State and Texas, they have nothing to lose. But Iowa State owns a tiebreaker over West Virginia. But West Virginia has the tiebreaker over Texas. And Texas has a tiebreaker over Oklahoma. I know it's confusing, but I'm doing the best I can to try to clear this up. But it all boils down to the next 2 weeks. And hopefully, by then, when I come back to join you next Friday morning at 9 a.m. for my 9 a.m. special, I hope to have this all cleared up a little bit more. But right now, it's a mess. And a lot of things can happen. And it usually does. But the bottom line is, the next 2 weeks in the Big 12 are going to be crazy. And that's all I'm going to say, and that's all it boils down to. And I'm going to tell you right now, anything can happen. And it usually does. And I'm not going to say anything further here tonight about that. All right. I want to go back to Ohio State. I want to talk about the Ohio State Buckeyes for a few minutes. I want to come back to Ohio State because the Ohio State University has threatened legal action against Brett McMurphy. Now, you remember Brett McMurphy who went over there to talk to Zach Smith's ex-wife about the spousal abuse and the domestic violence. Well, apparently, Brett McMurphy is back in the news again. According to McMurphy, former assistant coach Zach Smith used the N-word towards former wide receiver Trayvon Smith. Ohio State has absolutely positively denied the allegations. And there are a lot of players speaking out. Tate Martell, he said, we have never heard that. He has never. Now, Coach Smith's done some strange things, but he has never used the N-word. Johnny Dixon, he's basically said, I don't know who this guy is, but this is ridiculous. Paris Campbell, he released a statement saying, this guy, Brett McMurphy, needs his head examined because Zach Smith has never used the N-word towards us at all. Austin Mack, he's even said, I don't know what the heck this guy is. He should be ashamed of himself for letting this happen. Ohio State coach Urban Meyer, during a Big Ten teleconference, he said, his guy's out of control. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's a sad deal, and it's ridiculous at what's been going on around here. And I'm ashamed of it, and I'm sick of it. Ohio State President Michael Drake has said, we have more values than that here at Ohio State. We value our people. We value our coaches. We do not allow racial slurs to take place here at this fine institution. Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith has said, this guy should be ashamed of himself. That's all there is to it. And I'm sick and tired of everybody saying what's been going on here. Well, the Ohio State players went to Urban Meyer about it, all fuming and fired up and angry about it. Now, according to a website named Bleacher, I don't know the name of the website. I don't remember. I forgot to write that down. But Brett McMurphy wrote this story. According to Drayvon Smith's father, he said Zach Smith used the N-word towards his son. I think it's more like Brett McMurphy's trying to stir up more trouble, if you ask me. He did a whale of a job when it came back that the domestic dispute, that Urban Meyer had knowledge, he came back, he had nothing to do with it. It got Urban Meyer suspended for the first 3 games of the season because all based on a lie. Now, I don't condone domestic violence. I don't. But I don't think Urban Meyer nothing should happen to Urban Meyer, if you think about it. But legal action against Brett McMurphy, he's a former ESPN writer. I would sue his butt to the fullest extent of the law. That's all there is to it. I am sick and tired of these sports writers trying to stir up trouble just to make a few dollars. And that's all there is. That's all that's going on around here this time. And I'm so tired of it, and I'm fed up. And you know the sad part about this is, it'll probably come back to the university. It'll come back that Zach Smith had something to do with it. His father and this guy. Excuse me. I have a little bit of a tickle in my throat here. Hold on. You know, I think sometimes what happens is with Ohio State, we get mixed up in something. It turns out it's not true. It doesn't matter. But Brett McMurphy should be ashamed of himself for writing this story. And I think Trayvon Smith's father is looking for a payday. I think that's all it boils down to. He's money hungry. He's looking for a payday. He's looking for his 15 minutes of fame. And Brett McMurphy, being the big ding dong that he is, went along with it. And it makes me sick even thinking about it. And I'm not going to say anything more about it, because if the more I keep talking about it, the more I'll blow steam. And you guys will be wanting me to shut up about it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we need to make it a special. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I got to think about this for a minute. As many of you know, I want to switch gears for a couple minutes. You guys know about the California wildfires that have taken the lives of, that have killed over 60 people, and we have 600 missing in northern and southern California. Well, it has affected the Stanford-Cal game. The Stanford-Cal game, which was supposed to be this weekend, has been moved to the 1st of December due to the wildfires out in California. We have right now there's over almost 50 to 60 people dead. It is the worst wildfire in California's history. There's over 600 people missing as it stands right now. I just want to let all you guys out in California know, my prayers go out to you in your time of crisis, in your time of need. I've seen the films. I've seen the devastation on the news. And we've all seen that devastation. My prayers go out to the state of California. and all the families that have been affected by this tragedy. And I'm going to tell you right now, please leave your prayers tonight, and I'm going to be thinking about you guys. My heart goes out to you, and I'm thinking about you. And I'm going to say this, though, from the bottom of my heart. You guys out in California that have been affected by the wildfires are in my prayers. Absolutely, all the way. Now, the Stanford-Cal game has been affected. That's been moved to December 1st. And my prayers go out to you this evening. And I'm not going to say anything more further about it here tonight. God bless you. I'm praying for you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, before I go, I need to make two special announcements. I just want to let everybody know, next Friday, November 23rd, I'll be doing the Scott Manning YouTube College Football Podcast pregame show, but the show is going to be a 9 a.m. show next Friday. The reason for the 9 a.m. start is because we got two big rivalry games, Washington State on Friday night, and we got Oklahoma, West Virginia. So I've decided to do a Friday morning special to get you ready for rivalry Saturday, for the rivalry weekend. And it's a big weekend because we have a lot of state. Oklahoma, West Virginia, you know the story. Washington State, Pac-12 implications on the line. And of course, we got Michigan, Ohio State, and all the big rivalry games. I'm going to attack as many of those as I can. But also, too, the following Friday on November 30th, I have decided to do another 9 a.m. show. To do another 9 o'clock show. Because apparently we have a couple of conference championship games in college football on a Friday night. The following Friday night. But there's going to be a change in title. And I want you to pay attention to this. It's not going to be the Scott Manning YouTube College Football Podcast pregame show anymore starting next week. Starting next week, it's going to be just for about a month or two, just for the month of December, and for about a couple of months. It's going to be known as the Scott Manning College Football / Basketball Show. You'll still have your chance to field your questions. I'll take your questions, your comments, and all the concerns that you have. But I'm letting you know these two special announcements now, so this way you know what's going on. And this way you're thinking, oh, Scott, are you out of your mind? Trying to do a daily double? Starting November 30th with college football and college basketball going on, is going to be all hands on deck. And I'm going to tell you right now, the college basketball season is getting very interesting. I know conference play hasn't started yet, but there's a lot to think about going down the road. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. I want to thank you guys so much for taking the time with me here this evening. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. My name is Scott Manning. All you have to do is type my name down, scroll down, look for this pretty face, click subscribe, and you'll see all the sports videos I've done so far. I want to let you know I'll be back tomorrow night at 11:30 or midnight to get you. I'll be back at 11:30 tomorrow night, or possibly midnight if I need to be, with all the big games going on tomorrow. And I just want to let you guys know, thank you so much for being with me here tonight. You guys have a great night. Thank you so much for being with me, and you guys have a great night. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for being with me, and God bless.